Good evening, everyone. In trying to the same for multi-layer networks, we encounter difficulty. We don't have any target drivers for hidden units. This seems to be an insurmountable problem. How could we tell the hidden units just what to do? This unsolved question was in fact the reason why neural networks fell out of behavior after an initial period of high popularity in the 1950s, but it took 30 years before the error backpropagation algorithm popularized a way to train hidden units, leading to a new wave of neural network research and applications. So, backpropagation was one of the first methods able to demonstrate that artificial neural networks could learn good internal representations. So, today we are here to present research paper learning representations by backpropagation errors. First of all, I would like to introduce our group members. I am Chan Sankartana. Here are my colleagues Kitna Madishani, Nipani Muthukumar, and Hashan Malik. Backpropagation was invented in the 1970s as a general optimization method for performing automatic differentiation of complex nested functions. However, it wasn't until 1986 with the publishing of a paper by Humelhut, Hinton and Williams titled Learning Representations by Backpropagating Errors that the importance of the algorithm was appreciated by the machine learning community at large. Experts examining multi-layer feed-forward networks trained using backpropagation actually found that many nodes learn features similar to those designed by human experts and those found by neuroscientists in investigating biological neural networks in mammalian brains. Even more importantly, because of the efficiency of the algorithm and the fact that domain experts were no longer required to discover appropriate features, backpropagation allowed artificial neural networks to be applied to a much wider field of problems that were previously off limits due to time and cost constraints. The term backpropagation strictly refers only to the algorithm for computing the gradient, not how the gradient is used. However, the term is often used loosely to refer to the entire learning algorithm, including how the gradient is used, such as by stochastic gradient descent. The term backpropagation is often misunderstood as meaning the whole learning algorithm for multilayer neural networks, but backpropagation refers only to the method for computing the gradient, while other algorithms such as stochastic gradient descent are used to perform learning using this gradient. Generalizations of backpropagation exist for other artificial neural networks and for functions generally. These classes of algorithms are all referred to generally as backpropagation. Backpropagation of errors is an effective method for training of weights for feed-forward neural networks that contain hidden layers. The backpropagation of error paradigm is based on the assumptions that all weights contribute to some portion of the output error and that weight correction should be the proportional to the output error contributed by each weight. In fitting a neural network, backpropagation computes the gradients of loss function with respect to the weights of the network for a single input-output example and does so efficiently, unlike an Ivy-direct computation of the gradient with respect to each weight individually. This efficiency makes it feasible to use gradient methods for training multi-layer networks, updating ways to minimize loss, like gradient descent or variants such as stochastic gradient descent are commonly used. The backpropagation algorithm works by computing the gradient of the loss function with respect to each weight by the chain rule, computing the gradient one layer at a time, iterating backward from the last layer to avoid redundant calculations of intermediate terms in the chain rule. And backpropagation's popularity has experienced a recent resurgence given the widespread adoption of deep neural network for image recognition and speech recognition. It is considered an efficient algorithm, and modern implementations take advantages of uh, specialized GPUs further improve the performance. And also, backpropagation is fast, simple, and easy to program. So, backpropagation, short for backward propagation of errors, is an algorithm for supervised learning of artificial neural networks using gradient descent, as I said previously. Given an artificial neural network and an error function, the method calculates the gradient of the error function with respect to the neural network weights. A backpropagation requires three things: a dataset, a feed-forward neural network, and an error function. Dataset consisting of input-output pairs, a feed-forward neural network as formally defined in the article concerning feed-forward neural network that are fully connected, that is, each node in a given layer connected to every node in the next layer. An error function which defines the error between the desired output and the calculated output of the neural network on input for the set of input-output pairs. Imagine we want to train a multi-layer feed-forward network by gradient descent to approximate an unknown function based on some training data consisting of pairs xy. The vector x represents a pattern of input to network, and the vector y the corresponding target or desired output. As we know, the overall gradient with respect to the entire training set is just the sum of the gradients for each pattern. In principle, Backrock provides a way to train network with any number of hidden units arranged in any number of layers. In fact, the network does not have to be organized in layers. Any pattern of connectivity that permits the partial ordering of the node from input to output is allowed. In other words, there must be a way to order the units such as all connections go from earlier to later one. The backwards part of the name stems from the fact that calculation of the gradient proceeds backward through network with the gradient of the final layer of weight being calculated first and the gradient of the first layer of the weight being calculated last. Partial computations of the gradient from one layer are reused in the computation of the gradient for previous layer. For hidden units, we must propagate the error back from the output nodes. To compute the gradient, we thus need to know the activity and the error for all relevant nodes in the network. This backwards flow of the error information allows for efficient computation of the gradient at each layer. Let's see how backpropagation works. Consider this diagram. Here input x arrives through the pre-connected path. Input is modeled using real weights W. The weights are usually randomly selected. Calculate the output for every neuron from the input layer to the hidden layers to the output layer. Then calculate the error in the output. We can calculate error in the output using difference between actual output and the output from neural network. Travel back from the output layer to hidden layer to adjust the weight such that the error is discrete. Then we can keep repeating the process until the desired output is achieved. Now, Kitma will explain more details about those steps with the equation.
Thank you, Chalani. For neural networks, backpropagation learning procedure is very successful. Assume that the units have real valued outputs between 0 and 1. The total input x to unit j is given by xj equals sum of y multiplied by wj for all I. Here y is the output of the units that connected to unit j and w is the weight of the connection. The total input xj to unit j is a linear function of the outputs yi of the units that are connected to j and of the weights wij. So consider this example. Let's take this as a unit. So you can see for this unit, there are 4 inputs. So put for this unit, you have to follow this procedure. You have to first, so you can see this is the output of this unit. So first you have to get the multiply of this output value and the weight of that. Then you have to do the same procedure for each of these inputs, and for how to sum up the all the 4 values. So that is the simple idea of this. Also, unit has a real valued output yj, which is nonlinear function of its total input. That is yi equal 1 over 1 plus e to the power minus xj. This yi means when we consider the unit as this is the output. The output can be stated as a equation, nonlinear function of its input. That is the idea of this equation. An input vector is presented to the network by setting the state of the input unit. Then by applying these 2 equations to the connections coming from lower layers. All units within the layer have their states set in parallel, but different layers have their states set in sequentially, starting at the bottom and working upwards until the states of the output units are determined. So our aim is to find a set of weights that ensure that for each input vector, the output vector produced by the network is the same as the desired output vector. If there is a fixed set of input-output cases, the total error in the performance of the network with a particular set of weights can be computed by comparing the actual and desired output vectors for every case. The total error E is defined as mentioned in the actual output of the unit, and this is the desired output. So we first calculate the difference between the actual and desired output. And we have to take the square of that, and we do this across all dimensions. Here the C is the input-output pair. We sum up the error over every input-output pair in training set. Since our aim is to minimize the error, we take partial derivative of this E with respect to each weight in the network. Now consider that equation. To take the partial derivative, we will first take the partial derivative of this E with respect to each output unit. Then the derivative is given as yj minus dj. Then to compute partial derivative of E with respect to input unit, we apply the chain rule. We have to differentiate this out equation for output with I over dx in this equation. So it gives this part as its derivation, and so here we have substituted that in the chain rule, and after substituting it in the chain rule, it is given this equation. So this means that we know how a change in the total input x to an output unit will affect the error. But this total input is just a linear function of the states of the lower level units and the weights of on those connections. So it is easy to compute how the error will be affected by changing these states and weights. For a weight Wij from I to j, the derivation is as in this equation. And for the output of the ith unit, the contribution to DABA E over DABA Y resulting from the effect of I and J is as in this equation. We taking into account all the connections from unit I, we have this equation. We have now seen how to compute DABA E over DABA Y for any unit in the penultimate layer when given DABA E over DABA Y for all units in the last layer. We can therefore repeat this procedure to compute DABA E over DABA Y for successively earlier layers, computing DABA E over DABA W for the weights as we go. One way of using this DABA E over DABA Y, DABA W is to change the weight after every input-output case. An alternative scheme is to accumulate the DABA E over DABA W over all the input-output cases before changing the weights. The simplest version of gradient descent is then to change each weight by an amount proportional to the accumulated DABA E over DABA W. It can be significantly improved without considering about the simplicity by using an acceleration method in which the current gradient is used to modify the velocity of the point in weight space instead of its position. Here, the t is incremented by 1 for each sweep through the whole set of input-output cases, and this alpha is an exponential decay factor between 0 and 1 that determines the relative contribution of the current gradient and earlier gradients on the weight change. So here onwards, Nipuni will continue with the presentation.
Thank you, Kitma. Now let's discuss about the detection of symmetry. Detection of symmetry is one simple task that cannot be done by just connecting the input units to the output units. To detect whether the binary activity levels of a one-dimensional array of input units are symmetrical about the center point, it is essential to use an intermediate layer because the activity in an individual input unit considered alone provides no evidence about the symmetry or non-symmetry of the whole input vector. So simply adding up the evidence from the individual input units is insufficient. Here you can see a network that has learned to detect mirror symmetry in the input vector. The numbers on the arcs are weights, and the numbers inside the uh, nodes are biases. The key property of this solution is that for a given hidden unit, weights that are symmetric about the middle of the input vectors are equal and equal in magnitude and opposite in direction in sign. So the advantage of this is if a symmetrical pattern is presented, both hidden units will receive a net input of 0 uh, from the input units. And because the hidden units have a negative bias, both will be off. Uh, in this case, the output unit, as it has a positive bias, it will be on. The weights on this each side of the midpoints are in the ratio 1:2:4. Another interesting task is to store the information in family trees. This shows two isomorphic family trees, English people in one and the isomorphic Italians in the other. The information can be expressed as a set of triples uh, of the form that person 1 and then the relationship and then person 2, where the possible relationships are father, mother, husband, wife, son, daughter, uncle, aunt, brother, sister, nephew, niece, likewise. A layered net can be said to know these triples if it can produce the third term of each triple when used the first two. The first two terms are encoded by activating two of the input units, and the network must then complete the propositions by activating the output unit that represent the third term. Here you can see the relations that uh, Colin has father James, Colin has mother Victoria, James has wife Victoria, uh, Charlotte has brother Colin, Victoria has brother Arthur, and Charlotte has uncle Arthur. Likewise. Now let's move on to the network used, and it shows the activity levels in the first layer network after it has learned. The bottom layer has 24 input units on the left for representing person 1 and 12 input units on the right for representing the relationship. The white squares inside these two graphs show the activity levels of the units. There is one activity unit in the first graph representing calling, and one in the second graph representing the relationship has aunt. Each of the two input groups is totally connected to its own group of 6 units in the second layer. These groups learn to encode people and relationships as distributed patterns of activity. The second layer is totally connected to the central layer of 12 units, and these are connected to the penultimate layer of 6 units. The activity in the penultimate layer must activate the correct output units, each of which stand for a particular person 2. In this case, there are 2 correct answers. Here you can see the 2 are marked by black dots because Colin has 2 aunts. Both the input units and output units are laid out spatially with the English people in one row and the isomorphic Italians immediately below. This figure shows the receptive fields of some of the hidden units after the network was trained. The weights from the 24 input units that represent people to the 6 units in the second layer that learn distributed representations of people. Here, white rectangles represent excitatory weights and black rectangles represent inhibitory weights, and area of the rectangles encodes the magnitudes of the weight. Here, weights from the 12 English people are in the top row of each unit, and the Italians are in the bottom layer. Unit 1 is primarily concerned with the distinction between English and Italian, and most of the other units ignore this distinction. This means that the representation of an English person is very similar to the representation of their Italian equivalent. The network is making use of the isomorphism between the two family trees to allow it to share a structure, and it will therefore tend to generalize sensibly from one tree to the other. Unit 2 encodes which generation a person belongs to, and the Unit 6 encodes which branch of the family they come from. Here, this shows a synchronous iteration net that is run for 3 iterations and the equivalent layer net. Each time step in the recurrent net corresponds to a layer in the layered net. The learning procedure for layered nets can be mapped into a learning procedure for iterative nets. Two complications can be arised in performing this mapping. First one is in a layered net, the output levels of the units in the intermediate layers during the forward pass are required for performing the backward pass. So in an iterative net, it is necessary to store the history of output states of each unit. And the second complication is for a layered net to be equivalent to an iterative net, corresponding weights between different layers must have the same value. So with these two processes, the learning procedures can be applied directly to iterative nets. These nets can then either learn to perform iterative searches or learn sequential structures. So this is the end of our presentation, and thank you all. Feel free to ask any questions.